Good February the 26th. And happy birthday, Holly, my stepdaughter. My God, we're all getting old. So, back from a weekend or trip at the weekend up to London to visit my ma, who's not very well, but she's old and old and infirm. So she spent about a month in hospital and is just out and struggling to walk and stuff. I think, reaching that time of life that we all head to. Not to be too optimistic about everything. Now look, what we got here today is a few things going on. It's a Monday and I'm out in a breezy day, and the reason I'm out in this breezy day is because we've got fairly low humidity. I don't know if you can see that. It's going to go down a bit as the day wears on. I've got some finish heating up. I've been doing some planning on a Trekkie headless guitar, which has a really nice homemade neck to go in there. Number 10 it is. So I've been doing some stuff with that. I've been doing that. I've also off and on been spraying over the Gibson headstock here, which I will take into the other room and spray again. So today the acoustic guitar work is going to be a fairly quick setup on two guitars, both Epiphones for Dave. That's an EJ 200 over there, and that's this John Lennon guitar here. And basically it came with this strangely too thin saddle, which was leaning miles over. So I've got me a replacement saddle. It's thinning down a tiny bit, but it's the right length. I've also got some nice strings to work better with the magnetic pickup that we have here on the John Lennon guitar. And I don't really think we're going to get rid of this scratching, unfortunately. That's it's not really so. I mean, we can improve it with some, I don't know if you can see it there, we can improve it with some polish, maybe a bit of buffing, we'll see. But anyway, the main thing we're going to do here is get this set up right. Unfortunately, one of the strings broke as soon as I started to undo it, which is always the way. I don't want to destroy the brand new string, so I'm going to have to do the best I can with the remaining strings. So I'm going to put you over here for a minute. I do need the old mirror, which I haven't used for a while. It's been a while since I've filmed stuff because it's been a busy January and February. Busy January particularly. Anyway, so what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to get rid of this broken string, and I'm going to see if I've got a spare one anywhere that I can use as a substitute, should that be necessary. So this John Lennon was bought and came in minus this saddle completely. So I think the previous owner, I don't think he kind of knew how a saddle worked. But anyway, the point being is he sent the guitar without it, and it looked like he'd removed the saddle to try and lower the action, which is a bit strange. Anyway, we've got the length just about spot on. We may have to just round off a bit, but the first thing I've got to do with this is to let's get the rest of these pegs out for now, just so I can get access to the saddle. Now these are, well, he's bashed these in a long way. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to cover this up to give it a bit of protection, because that's harder than it should be. Yes, so it's been a tiring end of the week. We went up on Friday, and it was only a very brief visit, but I went up with my boys, and at this part of my life, I really don't enjoy long drives, and I'd also been worried that we wouldn't be able to make this trip because my damn car was going to, some reason I knew it was going to fail the MOT and there'd be all kinds of ensuing trouble. But to my amazement, it passed the MOT without costing anything. So with the money I saved on not having to pay for the MOT, I basically bought new tyres, which it needed, just about needed, and yeah, it became feasible to go up. So that's, I mean, I'm not telling you this for the, for the purpose of having the little violins playing or anything like that, but it is an example of the sort of marginal nature of guitar work. But anyhow, I was able to go up, and we drove up on the Friday, which is, as I say, was quite tiring. And we got there. I set off at about 8, and we got there at about 3 in the afternoon, and stayed up my mum's and chatted and ate some food and be sociable and stuff till about 10, and then we had booked some rooms in the Ibis Hotel in Boreham Wood nearby, so that was quite good because it meant I could get at least a fairly good night's sleep before setting off again the next day. But it was a very short visit, and it's kind of hard to see Mum like that and then bug off, but I don't really have any alternative choice. Anyway, but she was better than I thought she would be, which is good. I'm going to take a bit off each side now to make it even. Yeah, and so the car, amazingly, our old car did the whole thing really well. But as I expected, when I got back, I was a bit knackered for a bit. I took it easy throughout the rest of the weekend, which brings us to here. Well, I came up and did some work yesterday, but overall, just I think knowing when you hit 60 or whatever it is, and you know your own energy levels and what you're capable and what kind of how much breaks you need from things, and I think that's what I at least know. So I didn't have anything scheduled for Saturday afternoon, so that when I got back I could just relax and recharge. Okay, so I'm just trying to work this down carefully to the correct height. Well, not height, sorry, the correct thickness. And it's very difficult, being flat, it's very difficult to handle unless I were to stick blocks onto it, but that's sort of hard work as well, so I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So this is the rough sandpaper, and when I get close to fitting I will go step down to the finer stuff. Yeah, so this John Lennon Epiphone came minus the saddle, and I think the guy was trying to play it with the strings just coming off the front of the bridge, which is not going to be very satisfactory, which could be why he came to the conclusion that it was terrible and time to get rid of it. It certainly would be terrible if you played it like that. So anyway, Dave picked it up for a reasonable price, and a very good price, I think, and here it is. So we're doing this, we're not doing a complete like new nut and everything on this, we're trying to keep this restrained amount of work on this. So on this one I'm going to replace this saddle, get it to the right height, and then I'm going to polish the frets, hydrate or oil the fingerboard, and we're going to redo the nut with files rather than replace it. It's quite a nicely made bone nut, but it's not. It's sticking at the moment, so it needs a little bit of work and to get that first fret action to an optimum height. So, so at the moment I'm having an interesting conversation, or trying to have an interesting conversation with the Taylor acoustic guitar department. Right, we've got a tiny bit too long here, haven't we? So let us remove. Yes, so talking to Taylor because a guitar that, believe it or not, that Justin, who I had to rework his Fender the other day because of the problems with the gloss maple finish, and as a result of how they do their fretting. They put their frets on first and then spray over the top. So I had to basically rework that. And now he sent me his brand new Taylor C214CE, which I did my usual very careful assessment of everything, and bearing in mind that Taylor have sent me in the past, or over the last year or so, not only have they sent me the shims to do the neck resets, so they're clearly, have decided that I can do them, and they're happy to send them at no charge, which is great. They've also, along the way, sent me, fair. Great, there go my tools. Sent me a fairly comprehensive document covering how to do the neck reset and the way the shims work and so on and so forth. Anyway, so that's been great, and I, since I've been doing those sorts of neck resets, I've been increasingly recommending Taylor for that very reason, because they're one of the few brands, small number of brands, whose bolt-on neck and shim system allows you to, if you like, A, better set up your guitar from new, and B, allows you to, if you like, reset the neck with ease down the line when its action changes, which it necessarily will. Anyway, so I have been using their stuff and recommending them to people, and having sent me all this useful information, it's interesting, that's slightly tilting back, that saddle, that's where the slot's being cut. Probably a good idea, just to recognise that by the time it pushes, it might well be just a little bit over. Let me get a spare string. I'll carry on talking. Anyway, so the issue that I came across is that over the last 10 or so Taylors that I've done, I've noticed that, what are these strings? Oh, 10s, they'll do. Oh, is that a 9th? No. Is that 11th? No. Anyway, yeah. Ooh. No, these are acoustic, and they're horrible. I don't want that. Damn. Oh, actually, I suppose I could get away with the first high steel one of these. Yes, sorry, I'm not making sense, am I? There we go, that'll do. So anyway, yes, so over the 10 or so most recent ones I've done using the shim system, one of the things I've noticed, and you may have seen on my videos, me talking about it, I've noticed that the Taylor does this thing, seems to do and does this thing of when they fit the neck with the shim the first time they put it all together, they I guess they coat each face of the joint before they kind of push it together and bolt it together. They coat it with a kind of wood putty, which, okay, fair enough. I mean, that's what they do anyway, and I noticed it fairly early on. But what I also noticed was that the this putty, when, sorry, get it the right way around, the putty, when it comes to removing the neck, the putty has a tendency, more or less on different times, different guitars, to pull up shards of bare wood. So this is bare wood underneath the fingerboard extension, and you take the bolt there off, 2 bolts here, and the idea is you have to wiggle and gently tap and prod the neck until it comes away like this, and I do it face down with thumbs and stuff. Anyway, so what I noticed is that they use this putty, and once you've taken it apart, you can see very clearly that there's putty on the faces, the 2 parts. So there's, along the face of there's putty, like a kind of ring of grime, if you get what I mean. And then on the other side here, there's remaining putty. So and it's dried, so it's crunchy. So you've got this material left over, and the issue is that you have to think, well, what do you do with it? Up till now, I've sort of put it back on as was without taking the putty off, because I wasn't really sure what on earth to do with it. So it seemed to make sense to me that this putty is acting like a glue, something like a glue, because it's pulling up the wood, and I noticed it was pulling up like little shards of wood, greater or lesser, and because it was all underneath the fingerboard extension, it wasn't exactly the end of the world, but it I was mentally registering it, thinking this isn't so clever. And of course within that then I was starting to think, well, what is this, what are they using this putty for? And it seemed to me that about all I could think of was that it was really cosmetic, the idea of just closing up any potentially visual gaps. Not that there really are any, because when you put it all together again, with or without adding extra putty, it's you don't really see any gaps. It's a decent fit, the joint. Anyway, so I started to kind of think about it, and it was kind of getting me annoyed, a bit bothered by it, thinking, why are they doing it? Because it is taking off a little bit of material as we go. Anyway, so I would say that, let's say of the last 10 I've done, 8 would have come apart with tiny, well, all with traces of putty, but only 3 of them pulling up little shards of timber, the wood from under the extension mainly. But the other day, when I came to remove the neck on Justin's brand new one, what happened was, as I went to push it, basically I would go like this. The bolts would all be out. I'd have it down on here. I'd first of all do a very small amount of waggling, and then I would put it down there like that, and I would either push, well, mainly most of them I've ever done, you push hard on there and it comes free, and it doesn't hardly go anywhere because it's already pressing down on the soft towel or blanket or whatever I had it on. But this time it was really stiff, and I pushed harder and it went boom and came off. But what it did was the glue, or the putty, and either the putty and or the tightness of this bit here, tore the edge. There's a few little cracks here, but that's different. But it tore the edge of this, the long edge here on this side, because obviously the putty was stuck to it, and so it made an unpleasant piece of damage. Now, I being a fixer sort of guy, possibly unwisely, I went ahead and did a glue boost repair on it to make it as clean as I could. Unfortunately, it's 98% good, not exactly entirely as good as I would like. So I've contacted them, and I've asked them first of all about that's 6 mils, and that's 5 mils, 6 and 5. I've contacted them and asked them about this putty, and told them my experience of it being quite sticky and glue-like, and the difficulty getting the neck off. So they're taking it seriously. So they sort of sent me back a thing with 2 little short, actually not professionally made videos. They're not kind of tailor-made videos, but they sent back like a couple of user videos showing, first one showing somebody hitting this heel with a soft thing or a hammer or something, and then a bit of wiggling going on. So mostly what I did, except for the stopping short of hitting it, because I'd hate to hit it, because if it's going to crack the finish or something, tapping this is going to be what causes it. So I've avoided that. But anyway, that was what they sent me, you know, and they said, you know, they understand that this putty's there, and therefore this technique is how we, you know, get it apart. Nothing more clever, nothing like softening it or wetting it or anything. Anyway, so they explained that to me, and so then I went back to them and said, look, well, here's the pictures of my repair. I said, you know, and it's interesting to know that you put this stuff on for cosmetic reasons. You know, how do you suggest I go forward with this? Because, you know, my customer now is, you know, we've now got a situation where I, at best, give him back, sorry, I'm thinking low E last fret is 6, high E last fret equals 5. You know, I have to give him back a less than perfect guitar, and I don't really feel like it's my fault that you've used this sticky stuff, and because they said something like, oh, it might be an overhydrated neck extension causing it stick, and you know, and it's like, well, you know, it's straight from the supplier, you know. So I kind of gently suggested under warranty what would they like to offer to put this right for my customer, you know, and I suggested that I'm sure he wouldn't even mind a few weeks wait if it had to be, you know, refinished or, you know, replaced or whatever. I just wanted to give them the kind of give them a sense of what I was expecting. So I'm in the middle of waiting for that, but poor old Justin, you know, his experiences. First of all, I had to do a major repair on a Fender with lousy splitting finish because of the way they spray their frets. He wanted a refret, and you can't refret them without the finish all coming off, which is just terrible. And now he's got the same thing with the Taylor guitar. So fingers crossed, Taylor are a good company, and I really want them to do the right thing here, because I certainly don't want to disappoint a customer, a good customer, in that way. Now, before I do any more, this is just going to be a sound-only clip. I'm just going to into this other room to add on some satin nitro onto this headstock, so bear with me. Okay, you can hear the wonderful sound of satin nitro going on in fairly thick wet coat here. Brings it back out into visibility, lays it down here. It's as good a place as any. Quite difficult to cover up an inlay. It tends to retain its shape, so you have to kind of flatten it out. But anyway, yeah, so that's where I am with the with Taylor. But here we are back at the Epiphone. So here's our new, extraordinarily tall, brand new, but better fitting saddle. And you can see it's a mile high, and we can see that we've got a ton of action to remove on that saddle, which is good. It's always good to know we can remove it, but of course we have to be careful that we remove it at the rate that we still retain some string break angle. So if we are, let's do what I always do. Low fret, my target action, ideal word would be 2.5 mils, being cautious. My high E last fret action would be 1.75, again being cautious. So 2.5 means a reduction of 3.5, 4, 5, 6, right? So minus 3.5 at the last fret, and on this one would be a reduction of 3.25 on the last fret. 3.25, 4.25 plus 3.35. Yep. 3.2535 last fret. Now we know that that's at the last fret, but we've got to work out what we take off at the saddle, which I have my multiplication is about 1.4 is my guiding factor, It's probably not very realistic, but anyway, I'm just going to use this. Sorry if it interferes. So we go calculator. So we've got to remove, for the low E, we've got to remove 3.5. Let's clear that. 3.5 times 1.4 gives us 4.9 at the saddle on the low E, and on the high E we're going to go 3.25 times, divide 3.25 times 1.4 gives us 455 on the high E at the saddle. So now if we, that's a whole ton. So what I don't want to do obviously is try and take all of this off in one go. So now I'm just going to take it all loose again, see if I can do it without taking the pegs out, possibly. You shall see. So what I've got now is a target. The reason it's more at the last fret is because it's sorry, at the saddle than the last fret is because it's a sort of, it's a triangle. It's geometry. Don't know much geometry. So this is a 4 and 2 compensated saddle. So it's for a 4 wound and 2 plain, an acoustic set, but it happens to be an acoustic set which is more geared to use on a magnetic pickup, so I took a recommendation on these. So we are treble down to, so treble is 4.5 and then 4.9 on the bass. So 4.5, so let's divide it first, so we're not working all in one go. So 4.5, so treble and bass will have 2 stages, stage 1 and stage 2, stage 1 and stage 2. 4.5 divided by 2. Let's get my calculator up, just to be, I know you could do it easily in your brains, but so we go treble, sorry, high E, low E, okay, treble 4.5, 5 divided by 2 equals 2. So the first stage is 2.28, for example, and then 4.55, and the base one is 3.5 divided by 2, 1.75. Sorry, it's not that at all. It's 4.9. 4.9 divided by 2, 245, and 4.9 is to stop. So it just gives us a couple of steps rather than do it all in one go. So if we were going to go first one for treble 2.28, let's go to 2.28. It's quite difficult to be very precise, but treble side here I can either do a mark, use a sort of scratchy thing, and then on the bass side we're going to do 2.45, so we can get a line between these two. 2.45. Whoops. Theoretically. Okay, so now if I seem to have lost my scalpel. That ain't funny. Where the hell's the scalpel gone? It's not like you can lose it that easily. Excuse me a second. Are you behind here? Have you fallen down? Ugh. That's weird. Right. Temporarily. Oh, hello. Temporarily, it's gone. So, I am going to do my best. Actually, why are you up there? You should be down here. I'll do my best to do this with another kind of blade, for which the blade is there. Right. So here is my my first line, my first to and from. Now this one strikes me straight away as being big enough that I could sort of take a big chunk off with a grinding wheel. This is not easy to keep in a straight line at all. Come along. There you go. There's my first line. So, I mean, we could do a sort of the second one, 455. Well, let's take it to, let's do it 455 in total. 455. It's difficult. 455. So I'll make a second mark. And that's quite a big step. 455 and bass 490. Okay. Now, the reason I want to stop before, or stop halfway, somewhere close to halfway, is because I want to reassess the break angle of the strings at that point, because I can't really know it until I do it. It's not something you can really calculate and anticipate. So here are my two measurements from first half to second half, and just keep those nicely pressed down while I give a scrape along there. Okay, that's good. So what you can do sometimes, if you're stuck and it doesn't, you're not sure if it's going to be visible, if you sort of paint onto your lines like so, and you can get yourself a nice bit of sandpaper and sand it off carefully. Oh well, not as easy as I thought. I haven't got very good fine sandpaper knocking about. Well, the idea was, I'll get some solvent. The idea was you can leave sort of some marker pen in the gap, but I don't really want to take off too much more. It does work. It does work in principle. There you go. Look, we've got a couple of tram lines that are suddenly easily visible, and we can clean the rest of that off. Look at that. That was my tip. So now the thing I might want to do for the first one is just go straight to the grinding wheel and take off the bulk of that one. So bear with me, and we'll need the sanding block back like so. Stay out of the way, and this way round. Right, so a bit of noise. You over there, you can see me over here. Oh, it's all clobbered up. Yes, throw it on the floor, that's okay. Right, this is without the dust extraction. So I'm just going to take away a big part of this first stage. So a crude first cut, but then we can take it down to the line with sandpaper. That would have taken quite some time to do all of that just with the sandpaper alone. So we've taken the first chunk. Now this is going to be way under what I want to cut, but it will give me a fair start to assess the change in the break angle, and then sort of inform me where I would want to go from there. What I'm wanting is a flat bottom, girls. Make the Tusq saddle go round. Right, that's pretty much on the... Let's get it straight. It's close to the mark. And I'm doing the shuffle so I can keep the thing dead straight and get the bottom straight. So much better than moving your hands. So it's all in the legs. That's what it's saying, Strictly Come Dancing. Right, so there's the first cut, the deepest, and here we are. Here we are. Back to insert it. Now, this should fit easier now because it's lower but it's a little bit fatter at the bottom, so it's going to stick in if we're not careful. Okay, so remember, this is now I'm looking at the general playability and the angle of the strings over the saddle to begin with, and I'm just going to use that to get a sense of how far I can go. Can I go the full reduction, or will I end up losing too much break angle that affects the play? But I think we should be okay. Now as we go lower down there, we are getting lower to the first fret, and when you do a significant action reduction, you will run the risk of the previously set first fret action ending up disappearing, but that's still enough to take this down further. So what I'm looking at here is the first fret, the E usually, the string over the saddle, and that's actually pretty extreme for an older guitar. So I'm going to take that as a license to remove more, and if we want to be careful, we can, oops, the wrong way. If we want to be very careful, we can go 2/3 of the way there and recheck. It's better to do 3 bites at this than to do it all in one go and discover that while the action looks beautifully low, there's no break angle for the strings going over the saddle, because we absolutely don't want that. I'm just going to use this to ease it out. Come on, matey. That doesn't want to come out at all. Thank you. Down you go. Quick look at the headstock on this thing. Oh yeah, looking nice and whatever that word is, satiny. Right, I'm going to now do quite a bit of the next step. So that's again done by eye up to a point. But again, it will give me a chance to square this off now and then test it. So we're about half the next step again, so it's certainly not all the way. And just want to even it out now into a nice flattened bass. Let's have a look. Tipping a tiny bit. This is not bad. So yeah, half the way down the next half. So again, we can just take that extra couple of minutes to double check, triple check, quadruple check this down here. That's actually a bit. I think I'm not going all the way down there. It's just I got a feeling this might be a fraction. What's the word I might look for? Fraction thick. So I'm just going to just gently help it along its way. So we're looking at 58% relative humidity at the moment in here, which is good compared to most times. Okay, that's a better fit. You want to be careful, make sure it goes in, because otherwise it's riding up and you're getting a false reading. Now the business with the break angle of the string over the nut, of course, is about the amount of force it puts down on the nut. And if you have well, first of all, just from the acoustic guitar's point of view, the strings need to press down quite hard on the saddle in order to transmit vibrations down through to the guitar top. And various manufacturers tend to have a slightly different angle, so it's not easy to just give a completely one size fits all. But on a guitar like this, where you have no real alternative when you want to make an action adjustment, but to adjust the saddle height, you're stuck with, that's the only way you can do it. So you're stuck with having to probably decrease the angle, the break angle of the string more than you would technically want to. And that now I'm about where I probably want to be with the high E. So we got an action here of just over 2.5 mils, and I wanted 1.75, which is a tiny bit less, and I think I will permit myself to do it, because there's not really much point if we don't improve the playing action of this. Because of the way these pegs are placed in relation to the saddle is at an angle, the pegs are perpendicular to the center line, and it means that of all the strings, the high E has the bigger gap between the apex of the saddle and the place where the string comes out from the peg hole, and as a result it's the high E that always runs out of angle first, unless you notch that slot a little bit, which is entirely possible to do. Some manufacturers have figured that out, and what they do is they actually move, they stagger, they place the peg holes they place them in line parallel to the saddle as opposed to perpendicular to the center line, and that increases the break angle for the high E string somewhat. Now this is a little bit difficult to get out now. I think we should probably make that small intervention on this high E, otherwise we won't really benefit from it that much. And of course we're going to go, okay, that's all that. So for this, to do this part of it, you need a Dremel type of thing and a fine bit to drill down, and it's just a matter of small bits and small pieces. Where are my bits? So let's have a look. I'll tell you what, let's do the saddle apart first, and we'll get the ideal action. And oops, there goes my string. We'll get the ideal action, and then we'll worry about increasing the break angle. It's probably better off camera because it's fiddly. So we're agreeing that we're going to go down the full force of the reduction as calculated. So I'm going to again take most of it down on here. So quite a lot of material's gone, as you can tell from this saddle, but that's the way, that's what it's all about. The reason I replaced it anyway, the main reason is because the other one was too thin, and because it was too thin it was rocking in the slot. Rocking in the free slot. Come on, sleeves. Give me a break. Okay. Do you know what I watched the other night that I'm almost ashamed to admit? I watched a Cliff Richard and the Shadows concert. I was curious, okay? Forgive me. Oh, forgive me, I was curious. And what did I find? Well, I have to say it was from about 2009, 2009 or something. But even then, they were incredible, actually. I mean, singing-wise and instrumentation-wise, and I couldn't. Maybe people have different opinions on this, but I actually couldn't believe that Cliff wasn't using auto-tune. It was that close. Now I kind of feel like I should recognise it if somebody is using auto-tune, but auto-tune. But for some reason I couldn't be 100% certain of it, and but he was spot on in tune, the lad, the old lad. Anyway, he's been a million years old. Right. So now I'm going to kind of look at, this is the action we've ended up at. This is the lowest it's going to be. But yes, although it's cringeworthy, and I'm ashamed to admit it, I did watch it with a sort of professional, whatever, kind of professional interest, and I was quite impressed at how good it sounded, and I just thought, the guy is 80 blasted years old, and or was he 80 then? I don't know, it was the 50th, wasn't it, their 50th anniversary, something like that. But anyway, even at whatever age he was, just amazing. And hitting the notes and being in tune, and we're often very forgiving of old pop stars, rock stars, or whatever, like Phil Collins, when we shouldn't really be, because he was terrible in the last few years. No offence, Phil. I mean, I loved his music, I loved what he did, and he's a brilliant figure in history of music, but he went on beyond when he should have, in my book, but it's not for me to tell him when to stop. But from a point of view of when it stopped being good, I think it had already stopped quite some time before that final tour, and I couldn't bear watching it. Not because I'm, you dirty rat. Not because I'm, some unforgiving perfectionist. Just that, actually, with, when it comes to music like that, if it's out of tune, it's just unbearable. Even if you have a ton of respect for the person and all of that sort of stuff, if it's out of tune, it's the one thing it just can't be, is out of tune. I'm so sorry. And it really was. I'm trying to keep this double back so I can tighten it up. Anyway, But yeah, so by comparison, I thought Cliff and the Shadows were astonishingly capable at that age, given their age. Right. Well, once in every lifetime. That isn't bad. We've got 2.75 on the low E. We've got fractionally higher on the high E. We're still playable range, but we don't want to overdo it. That's even without slotting it, notching it, and I think that would be better not to. It's probably, that's okay on all the other strings and just barely, well, it's just about okay on the high one. So, and I think this, because this is also more of an electromagnet, I mean a magnetic pickup anyway, you know, the closer we can get to the pickups in some ways the better. But I think that's playable. Now the only thing that remains now is to just, on this one, well there's some cleaning and bits and bobs, but what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to just do the nut slots. What I will do first is check the relief on it. So it's a nicely fitted, well, it's not actually, but it's a bone nut and it's fairly well made. So we've got a tiny bit of relief, which by my calculations is enough, neither more nor less than enough. So we're going to do a setting of the action with the Hosco supernatural, what do you call them? These things, feeler gauges. Do you know what? I'm here singing the praises of this nut, but it isn't the most perfectly spaced. It's a handmade nut, probably from the factory which maketh this model, but it's the E string is just slightly close together. Anyway, the E to the B. E to the B. Anyway, so look, I'm just going to start by widening that. We're almost there. Should be there. It's close, man, close, man. On the B, quite a bit too high. Come along, you can do it. Tell you a film I watched the other day that I haven't quite finished, so I'm saving it either to watch it again or to go and watch the finish separately, because that's spot on. because it's actually quite long, is One-Eyed Jacks, Marlon Brando, and Carl Malden. And I found it because I'd been binging out on the old Carl Malden Streets of San Francisco, and I kind of wanted to find something else with him in it. Sometimes, as you do, you realise, oh, I actually really like that actor. What else is he in? Blah blah blah. I knew, he's an old film actor as well as being a TV geezer. But anyway, so I found this film and it was on YouTube, so I kind of went off to enjoy it for free. And it's, wow, what a great film. And it's so not what I would watch, meaning that it's to begin with, it's a sort of supposedly a Western, or it appears to be a Western. It's set in the sand dunes and the thunderous surf of California, or Monterey, California coast. And also Marlon Brando, I mean, Marlon Brando is amazing in it. In a way, he sort of is, if you ever want to see the forerunner, well, I imagine it's the forerunner to, what's his name, Colonel Kurtz. So Kurtz, is it, in Apocalypse Now? But in fact, what it is, it's just the role he plays forever in anything. But he's even better at it in this film. He's more it than any. He's more it than in. He's even more Colonel Kurtz than he is in Apocalypse Now. Anyway, so first of all, he seemed quite magnetic and mesmerising in it, in a mumbling sort of way, which I never thought I would like. That sort of, it just felt like overacting or type. I don't know what you'd call it, but when he's just being his mumbly self, and if you don't like it, you can get up and leave the theatre. But and then Carl Malden plays a fantastic role as well, and actually the sort of peril of this 1961 effectively psychological cowboy thriller, which I wouldn't really normally think of putting those three terms together, actually turned out to be gripping. And so much so that I've watched it in 2 sittings so far, and I'm due a final sitting. But it's so good, I have a feeling that I might just go all the way back to the beginning to savour it in one piece. But I think you have to have 2 hours and 22 minutes spare to do that. Why am I working on 40? Who told me to get a 40 out? I suppose I did, because it's an acoustic guitar. I'm going to do a bit more on this G, because it ain't quite where I want it to be. Yeah, very, 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 very good film. Surprisingly good, considering it's a Western. But it isn't really, and it's even got Slim Pickens. Remember him riding the bomb into the sunset in Dr. Strangelove? And even his role, he's normally a kind of yee-haw sort of guy, and he plays in Blazing Saddles, so you kind of expect him to be a useless sort of not useless, but a kind of a non-serious bumbling character. He's actually quite deep and malevolent in his own right in this film, which is again surprising. So yeah, how this came to be, I don't quite know. But boy, is it a good film. And I hate Westerns. Normally it wouldn't touch a Okay, that is done in that respect. So I'm going to, next, I'm going to remove this, give it a polish up. Dave wants the E removing from here. So I'm going to sand that out and polish it up, and then basically clean up the strings, clean up the frets with a bit of wire wool. Sorry, the frets with wire wool, and then put the new strings on, which will be these. So I'm going to stop while I do all of that stuff, because I need a break and a drink and do a bit more spraying, and then I'll come back with the EJ 200. See you in a minute. Good afternoon. We're on to the second of two. This one is the Epiphone EJ 200, the sort of Epiphones version of the big Gibson, and comes with a horrible plastic nut. Bad luck, Epiphone. We've got some horrible old strings on here, and we've got a 2 high action, but we've got quite a bit of room in the saddle by the looks of it. So aim on this one is to just new nut, some new strings, and make it play better. So I'm going to sort of leap straight in. It's not a full setup. I mean, I suppose it is. It's a setup, but with finite things, we're not going to. I'm going to polish the frets, but with a bit of wire wool. But I'm not going to do too much more. So I think what I'll do straight away is let's get the. We'll use the old strings as the sacrificial strings. So we want to get the cover off, because we're going to take off the old nut and get the new one fitted as neatly as possible. Come along. And we go from there. And then I've pretty much done my spraying today. It was an afternoon session because of the nice cooperative weather, humidity I should say. Come along. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the action at the other end and see what we've got. Obviously the first fret action is going to change because I'm going to put a new nut on. So that has a bit of relief, and that's actually not too much. I'm going to leave that as is for the time being. Let's measure the playing action and see what we can get. So we've currently got I would say 4.6 bass and 4.6 bass, 4.1 so bass, 4.6 last fret, treble 4.1 last fret. Okay, and really we would want 2.5 and a 1.75, which would be a reduction of, let's use a calculator instead of making mistakes. So we want the treble 4.1 down to, clear please, clear, treble 4.1 minus 1.75 means we've got to reduce, we've got to take down, so it's 2 that, it's got to take down by 2.35 at the last fret, and here we're going to do 4.6 can't use this, 4.6 minus 2.5, and we're going to take down 2.1, 2.35, 2.5, and so we get the 2.35 times 1.4 equals 3.29 at the saddle, and 2.1 times 1.4 equals 2.94 at the saddle for the bass side. Okay. So what I'm going to do is what I did. Let's move this out of the way. On the last one, leave the pen in your hand, throw the phone out of the way. So what we're going to do is to take this up, and we're going to stage this reduction in 2 sections to make sure. And these strings only have to act as sacrificial strings long enough. They're in horrible condition, but we just need to get the saddle out. That's the aim. Now I'll show you at the other end in a second. The principal thing we've got to keep our eyes on down here is, well, it's a bit loose now, but we're concerned about, we can reduce this saddle, but we've got to leave some break angle. So there's a kind of limit of how far we can go whilst retaining some break angle over the saddle, and that break angle is kind of important. So let us try settle down. Let's try and remove this. I thank you. Now it's got a thingy underneath there, a piezo strip, which is fine. We'll sit on top of that still. Sit there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start by making a mark of treble 3.29, 0, 3.29. Actually, we go half of that. Let's guess this. 1.6. Let's go 1.6 for a halfway mark. Sorry, this is just being a pain. Right, 1.6 for the halfway mark. Actually hard to see on this one. And then 2.94 divided by 2 is 1.5, 1.47. Close. Now if I can actually see these two, I can draw a line between them. Can I? Hell. That's very... Wow, that is hard to see. Let's see if I can show some of it up with some pencil line. I think I can. Let's place it on here. Sorry about this fiddly stuff. There's my mark. There's my sharp thing. So this is my first mark. So we've got a bit more coming off the treble edge than we do off the bass side, I think. That's the way it's looking. Oh, come on, follow the blasted metal. Right, here's my first mark. And then the next one was 3.29, 2.94. 3.29. 3.29. Wow, that's quite a lot. 3.29, 2.94. Borrow some of that pencil. Do the same, draw a line down there, and keep it to stay in one place. actually quite hard to make it stay still here. It really is. See if we can get another line showing up there. Okay. Woohoo! There are my two lines. To work too. So I'm going to go as before, if you saw the other one, but I'm going to go across to the noisy thing, and I'm going to just scrape off. I think I'm going to go straight to more than half of this, so I can get close to where we want to go. So you stay there. Stand by for noise. Okay, that's fairly, stay there, fairly good start. I just want to get this to be nice and flat. That's about 2/3 of the way there. So I just want to level it out now, nice and flat. So we've got about a millimetre left and a little bit too much on the treble side almost. So let's put a bit more weight on there. Let's have a look. Okay. Yeah, so about a centimetre, a millimetre all the way along there. But we've taken quite a bit off, so it will make a big difference straight away, as you can imagine. So the main thing now is for me to be able to see what becomes of the break angle, which is now going to be pretty low, I think. So just at the moment, I'm just using the plastic nut as we start off. Which we'll replace that in a second. Okay. So now we've got, yeah, we're nice and low, but we're skinny on the break angle. We've got magnetic pickup, you see, as well. So actually we're about 2.2. So we're not even, we can't get down to the target we wanted. Let's see what it looks like. So I have to make a decision now. So to make this play better, we'd need a neck reset. old strings. But so we got what's a good action, but not really much break angle. Well, you know, it plays. It might have to live like that, really. Amazingly, that still plays. Well, I think what we can do with this one is just drop down the, we can slot the peg here a little bit to give it a bit more break angle, but really that's as much as it will go. But it's incredible it still plays despite the reduction in the angle. I don't know whether the thing's got any batteries in it, if they're working or not. Let's have a look. On, off, battery, no volume, battery, anything. Oh, I see. CR2032s. They got them in there. That doesn't close up very well, does it? Hellfire. It's not a very good system. Oh, we got a little thing going on. What's this? Come on. Okay, so we're going to need to do that slotting to make it play at that action, which is still higher, unfortunately, than I would ideally like. But we just need to get that angle a bit bigger. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to, having tuned it up, I'm now going to, how do I turn it off? Yep. Now going to remove the nut, replace it with a Tusq nut. I absolutely hate strings that break when undoing because somebody's tied a knot in them and they actually can't go backwards. That's one of the reasons why I can't stand this. Jesus, now I get stabbed trying to pull this stupid tied up knotted little piece of crap out of there. Seriously, please folks, don't do that. Cost me now another string I've got to find to be able to check the nut height settings, right? All because a long time ago Somebody thought they were being really clever, putting a knot in the string at the tune end. That would stop it going out of tune, won't it? Bloody will not. Oh, God, so annoying. Gosh. Right, here's my, look at that. That really does claim to be a near-on straight replacement. Sure thing. That was miles too high. But that's okay, we'll take a reading and come down in height. I mean, it fits nicely. Well, a bit wide, that's okay. Bit wide. Even it up, even it up, even it up. I'm annoyed that I seem to have lost my scalpel. So I just might mark this here for cutting. So now I don't actually have a string I can test that high thing with. Oh, annoying. And these are sitting right down in the wood. Blimey. Right, so that's knackered. Can I find an alternative string? I think I'm just going to have to use something else. No good. I'm going to find one. Let me just go find one. I just need a string to sit in there. It doesn't really matter if it's all the wrong gauge. What's this here? No, no, no. Well, I've got an 11. It's not really ideal for string tension wise, but it's going to have to do for just sitting in there and doing its job. Oh, it might be actually 11 for one of these. That's not bad actually for an acoustic set. Maybe I'll get away with that just for now. Just for now. Okay, well that's going to sit in there for a minute. So while we do the nut, I'll sit it in there, and then I'll take it back out again while I do the slotting. And there are those that might say, why don't you do the slotting while the string is right out anyway? And you could be right. Keep this string to one side. Let us prepare to do the slotting. So I think you better come down here. You could even sit up on top of there, but I'm going to see what you can see. Right, so I've got to find myself some sharp pointy things that I can do the slotting with, and then I've got to also, I need to have, did I put them in a special container? Oh damn, who knows. I have to find the sharp pointy things, then I have to I think I did have them in a blasted, I had them in some sort of container, I'm sure of it, but now I can't find them. So I'm going to have to use an incredibly thin bit, the like of which is actually now currently not in this pile here, because they're somewhere like at home. I think they might be at home. Ah, no, don't. Let's have a look. See what we can find that will do it. First of all, let's see what the clamp, the collet does. What's the smallest it will go? So these are pretty fiddly, but they're not as small as I would normally like. But having said that, we have to go through and get this to work, so let's not be too bothered by the size. In fact, that would do if we just notch it with that. I haven't used this one for a long time, but it should be good for the job. I have to check at home then for the finer bits. Okay, so I'm probably not in, probably in your way now, but that will do. That will do. Okay. So grab the thingy. Noisy, I'm afraid. Blunt. That's pretty blasted blunt, I've got to say. Come on, folks. Maybe that one will do better. Sorry about this. Otherwise, I'm just going to make a load of smoke, which might not be the end of the world, but we shall see. So look in there. What have we got? Oh, actually, we have a tiny little thing in there. Let's start with this wood drill at 1. Is it 1 mil? Yeah, 1 mil thick. If we can get this to do up on it. Sorry about the delay. Terrible video, I know. Let's come at it this angle and you look at it from that angle. Well, that don't look so bad. Just put that in there and see where it comes out, shall we? Oh yes. Just about. Well, it's not going to be even that much different, frankly. I shall try. Let's just do this up a minute. How did I manage to do that? That's going to go on forever. Just bear with me a minute, I've messed that up. You come through here, I need more, thank you, just a bit on there. Just quickly look at this. Okay, let's just move this to one side for a minute, and then I shall remove this. I don't really, well, I'm not sure. I'm thinking to myself, I don't really want to do any further thingying, notching, bring it any closer. But it's not really, at this rate that it's doing it at, it's not really making that much of a difference, understandably, because it's barely touching it. Let's have a look again. Let's just do it up to tension. Still with the old crappy strings, most of them. Well, amazingly enough, that actually plays. It's pretty low, but like I said, it plays. So the question is, do we go any further with the notch? The B's okay, but it's the E that's quite a lot lower now. What's it standing at now? It's still higher. It's quite a lot higher. It's 2.75. It's a millimetre higher than I like. So let's just measure up the nut, or the first fret action. That's the next important thing. I worry maybe about putting a tiny bit more slotting, notching into there, into the bridge at the end. Let's have a look at the action here over the first fret. We need 0.3 really, and so we're just going to measure up. Let's see, we've got 55, 95. Yep, 95. 95, 110. 110 easily. 110. Let's call it 120 on the treble side. $120 on the treble side, and I would say 140, 120. Let's just write this down. Treble side, 120. First fret, first fret, treble, bass, first fret. What do I call it? 120. 120. Did I say 120? Forgotten. I can't rewind. 70, 95, 115. Damn it. 40, 30, 70, 95, 115. 115. 115. 125. It's not going to be 140, is it? 125. 125. 125, and this one is 125 plus. So that's 40, 70, 95, 115, 130, 140. 140. 190. 190, take out 20, 190, 170, 170, take out 10, 160, 160. Okay, so we need a minus 95, 95. And this one we need minus 1.3. Minus 95 minus 1.3. Okay, minus 95, minus 1.3. For starters, minus 95, minus 1.3. Let's get rid of these bits of rubbish first. Minus 95, minus 1.3. We can work this out on the actual nut. Let's just see what we can see. So bass 1.3, remove treble 95. So we can literally mark that up and go from there. Now the only thing, when you have only a saddle to work with for a decent playing action, the only thing you can do when you want to make adjustments is go down until you run out of break angle, and once you've run out of break angle, that's your lot. And that's what we've got to. So the worst that will happen is I'll just build that back up again, but we'll lose height in the playing action. We'll gain height in the playing action, which is kind of not what we really want to do, but as I say, no real choice in the matter. And that's what you get when you have a regular glued on neck joint on a guitar, on an acoustic guitar. And it's infuriating, because you go out and it looks good, and you hold it and it feels good, and then, or if you don't, buy it online, for example, and you get it and it arrives, and then you realise that it's not very playable, and that's a real problem. Right, I'm going to just get a little bit of marking on the thing to show where I've notched it, which I now can't see. Can you believe? Can you believe? Oh, I can get those edges, but I can't get this one marked up. Oh well. Blade. Sorry. Bunk. Blade. Just draw a line across here. Again, not very easy to hold in place. So we've not got a ton to take off here. We've got a matter of 1 point. How much? God, this is really not easy to hold. I wish I had some sort of vise that would hold this so I could draw a line on it, but I don't think I do. No, I won't do. See, this is the annoying part. It's not going to. Can I clamp that somehow? No, probably not. There's a flat surface there. I suppose I could possibly hold it. So look at where the line is. So making a mark with the blade is suddenly a lot harder along a surface like this, unless it can just do it lightly, like so. No, get in and stick to the metal. And I have a feeling this is going to look different twice in a row. Actually, that's not too bad. Is it really? Which one's the bigger side? The bass is 1.3. Okay. Not the best line in the world that I've ever marked. Okay. Right, so I'm going to begin some sanding. I think I'll do this purely by hand, only by hand, because we don't have a lot of leeway. So this one is, I've got to be very careful one. You can see where I am in the board of doom. So I have to bring this down by 1.3 and 0.95, but I don't want to go beyond that. So I'm going to start by pushing extra weight down on the bass end. To sort of bring that down first so we get a level thing. That's about level. Now we're going to sort of try and straighten out and even up the weight on both ends, and then just watch out for the amount that's going down. Okay, it's looking good. Now really, I should be prepared at the end of this to do the final bit with the nut files, so better to stop just before the end and resort to the nut files, better than overcutting. It's not looking too bad. This should be pretty close. Let's have a look. Or is it a quarter of a mil, quarter of a mil? Actually, we've got a little bit more left to do. Okay, now we've got a bit of width to take off here. To them. Let's see where we got to. Dun, dun, da-da. Looking good. Make sure it's on properly. So to get it just right, what I want to do is just tune up. Okay, so that's good, and that's the right width too. So I will get these removed. I'll slot that little bit, a tiny bit more down there. I'll do it at a full length shot. Take that undone. What I'll do, I think I'll just take it off there like that for a minute, and we'll just do the tiny bit more of our zinging. There we have it. That's as far as it'll go, really. We'll just call it quits there. See if it's any improvement at all, and if it isn't, then we'll just get left with a tiny bit of lift at the other end, which will, I'm afraid, change our action. Okay, let's live with it like as it is. Okay, so I'm going to zip off the, okay, undo these, kill these horrible strings, get rid of them. Oh, maybe not just a second, hold on. What I got to do is put this on here. We'll glue the nut on, and then use the strings, the old strings, just to hold it down, and then we'll be able to move on. So a bit on the front and a tiny bit on the bottom. And let's get this up here like so. Let's get that out of the way like so, that out of the way like so. That one there like that, very nice. That one lightly in there, that one lightly in there. Put that on there. Oh, you absolute bastard. That was just an attempt. I just needed to basically hold those down to let the nut set, dry, set, whatever. But it wasn't going to play ball, just because. So I'll just remove these first ones, and then we'll do the last two in a minute. Come on, out you come. Oh dear, that wasn't very useful. Come on, out you come. They all come out. Horrible, horrible, tied off, twisted things. Don't ever do that again, person. Right. Get rid of all of this nasty stuff. Okay, so that should be fine. I'm going to do a little tiny adjustment on the neck to dial a tiny bit of relief out of it for a second. I'm going to get me a little bit of that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Wire wool in here. And then I'm just going to give the frets a little polish down. Now people say to me, they say, but you don't want your pickups to get wire wool in them, and you're right about that. But this isn't a sealed pickup, this shadow mag thing, so that's all I'm going to do with that in mind. And then I'm going to use this thing here, which many people don't do. I see lots of people just grabbing this wire wool and rubbing it straight onto the fingerboard, but for some reason it makes me feel better to give it a little bit of a window to go through. So this is just a bit cosmetic. I mean, it makes it a little bit smoother, but it gets rid of the grime that's built up over the years, which is nice. Oh, well, there goes my wire wool. Oops. Oh, there it is. So after this, I will clean the fingerboard and the rest of the guitar with some naphtha, and then it'll be a case of putting the new strings on. Oh, well, oil the fingerboard after the naphtha, and then we'll put new strings on and give them a bit of a stretching at home and play through at home. So this is slow but effective. I mean, I have got the buffer set up in there, but I try not to use the buffer mops on frets. I don't know why, but the fret metal always gives off a black, or in contact with the mop and the polishing compound, it gives off a black stuff. So I prefer that not to be impregnated in the mop if I'm going to do any finish. Although, in a sense, it doesn't really do any harm because it's only the same grade of the mop. It doesn't make the mop any more abrasive or harmful to finish. Just don't like the look of it. So this is a better, simpler way. So I think I'm pretty much good with the spraying. I might just have a look before I go in a minute. I'll have a look at the Gibson headstock that I've sprayed to get rid of the actual Gibson logo. Or cover up, I should say. It doesn't get rid of it, it just covers it up. But I'll have another look and see whether it could do with one more coat before I disappear and then leave it hanging about. So that's that. That's them. Actually, I think that matte finish or satin finish on that thing is looking good. I don't think I need to do anything else. Okay, bit of cleaning fluid. I'll leave the cover as well off until the very end where I load it up with new strings, and then I'll be able to check whether the relief is right needs any adjustment. Nice finish on this guitar. It's in quite good condition. The sad part is that it's reached the end of its adjustment ability without having a neck reset. And look at this. I mean, what a beautiful, big, handsome piece of country and western history, or whatever, Elvis Presley type history. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. But it's unadjustable from here on inwards, which I think is bad. I mean, it's not good. It really isn't good. Right, some oil. See it's visible. Okay, oil. Yeah, I mean, what do you do with it after that? You just stop playing it because it's too uncomfortable to play eventually. And then what do? Do you spend 500 quid getting a full reset done? I don't know. I don't think many would. Well, maybe. Depends on what it would be to buy new, but it's a difficult one. Which is why I've become a fan of at least the Taylor and whoever else does bolt-on necks. I'm a fan of their stuff. Right, so now we shall put on some fresh strings and we'll see how we go. So these are phosphor bronze. I like the colour better than the other brassier looking ones. So these are handsome phosphor bronze. So I'm just going to push in all of these first and let them dangle, and then we'll do them at that end. Okay. Purple and plain. So I'm going to put the middle one, 2, on first. If I can break off this nasty piece of tangled, broken wire. Thank you. Yeah, so put in the G first, and then the D, so it holds the nut down in the middle, just to be on the safe side. Change hands. Okay. Now for the A. So I'm pulling back a fret's worth before I wind on. Going over the loose wire first, and then directing it under the loose wire second time round. Swap across to the B. Pull back a fret's worth. over the loose one, pull up the loose one, keep this one taut, push it under the loose one. There we go, nearly there. Back one fret. Over the loose one, and when it comes round again, go under. And finally, the low E. Back one, over the loose, keep it taut, under the loose as it comes round. Whoop. And then snip them all off. Beautiful. All done. Now tighten them up, tune up, and check what we've got. I'll give them a pull first to make sure they're on. See the effect also that the adjustment with the adjustment of the truss rods had, if any. Let's check the relief. Still got some. Stretch it out, be good. Right, I'm going to call it quits there. I'm going to go. That's it for today. I thank you for watching. Hope that was interesting little setup. I mean, quite a straightforward one in some ways, but we are, look at this lovely thing at the absolute limits of its playability. That is higher than a normal action that I would prefer. It's not too bad for this guitar, but it'll never from here onwards be any better than that or as good again. It's just going to rise thereafter. Nice low first fret action. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, that's just wrong, isn't it? Have such a beautiful, great thing as this guitar, and it's, you know, it's struggling to project these notes now because they're not creating the break angle that they really need to play properly, because of the folding up geometry over time, and it's nothing other than the fact that this structure is changing and folding up on itself. I'm going to do a tiny bit more adjustment here. See if we can just flatten this a tiny bit more and see what we get. Never know. Sorry about that. There we have it. As good as it's ever going to be. Let's put these back on. Oh, he's telling me I'm running out of battery. What am I supposed to say? Close or low power mode. That's the one. Just keep recording in low power mode, at least until I've put these thingies back in, eh? Spare me. Should be right. 1, 2, and 3. And we're done. We're heading out of here. Lovely. Thank you for watching. See you again soon.